Xylem and phloem make up the big transportation system of vascular plants. As you get bigger, it is more difficult to transport nutrients, water and sugars around your body. You need a circulatory system if you want to keep growing. As plants evolved to be larger, they also developed their own kind of circulatory system. The main parts you will hear a lot about are called xylem and phloem. Hello boys and girls, thank you for watching iTTV. Do you still remember what we learned in our previous lesson? Well, we learned about the human circulatory system. The human circulatory system have got blood vessels and the heart. What about plants? Do you think plants have got blood flowing in them? Not so, students. Today's lesson is transport system in plants. Just like humans, plants also need transport system to travel their water, minerals and food, which is glucose, which they make. So what do they actually have? They have got vessels as well, like the humans. But what are these vessels called? In humans, they are known as artery, veins and capillaries. But in plants, they have got firstly xylem and secondly phloem. These are the plant's vessels. Now, these phloem and xylem together make up the vascular bundle. So how do plants actually transport food and water in themselves? Let's have a look at the graphic. Transport of food. Food produced in the leaf through photosynthesis moves out through the phloem tissue. Food moves upwards to shoots for growth. So remember that the food is actually made during photosynthesis, and in where you should know that in the leaves, all green leaves can make their own food. What is the process called? Photosynthesis. What is needed for it? The green pigment called chlorophyll, of course. So once they make these food, which is glucose, they are then brought to other parts of the plant. Every cell of the plant needs the glucose. So first the shoots will use them or the stems, and later they are brought to the roots. Food moves downwards along the phloem tissue to the roots and used by root cells or stored as starch in roots. Now the starch is where they store food in the roots. So what kind of vegetables actually are they starch in the roots? Like the potatoes, of course. The potatoes grow underground by using underground stem. They are actually a collection of starch, the potato. That is about the transport of food. What about the transport of water in plants? Let's have a look. Water and dissolved minerals are absorbed by root hair. Now, most trees have got wide spreading roots to do what, students? To absorb water. Once the rain falls, they would quickly absorb water from the soil. Not only is water absorbed, but they also absorb minerals. Water is transported upwards towards the xylem tissues. Now, the function of xylem is to transport water. What about phloem? Food. Remember, xylem is water, phloem is food. Water keeps the cells in the leaves turgid and used for photosynthesis. So, xylem actually also plays another role. What is that? Not only do they travel water up and down the plants, but they also keep the cells turgid. Now when the cells are turgid, what happens? This is a sort of support system for the plant. The plant stands straight. Water is lost as water vapor through stomata during transpiration. Now you would learn further in the lesson about stomata and what is transpiration. We shall move over to know what is xylem tissue actually and what is phloem tissue. Let's start with xylem tissue. Xylem tissues, they are made up of xylem vessels. These are dead cells with neither nucleus nor cytoplasm. So remember that xylem tissues are actually dead cells. So what do you think phloem tissues are actually? Alive or dead? It's for you to know later. Xylem tissues form long tubes with thick walls. Now these tubes actually travel from the root up to the leaves. Just imagine a tree which is about 100 meters tall. The xylem tissue is actually situated end to end in tubes, and they have got so much of power that they can bring water right from the root to the top of 100 feet, which is in the leaves. Xylem tissues form the woody tissues of plants and give support. As I told you earlier, xylem tissues can actually give support for plants. What other things do the xylem tissue do? Xylem tissues can only live up to how many years? 1, 2 or 3. Only up to 1 year. But after that, the xylem tissue actually die off. But what happens to them? Do they actually disappear just like that? No, they actually form rings around the tree. So these rings actually resemble the age of a tree. A year is 1 ring. So if you would like to know the age of the tree, just count in the cross section of the tree the amount of rings you can find there. If you can find 5 rings, then the year of the tree is actually 5 years old. It's as simple as that. Xylem tissues also transport water and dissolved minerals absorbed by the root hairs from the roots up through the stems and to the leaves. So this is the function of the xylem tissue. They absorb water and send them up to the leaves. What about phloem tissue? What are the functions of phloem tissue? We know that they are related with the glucose, which is food made out of photosynthesis, but what other functions do they have? Phloem tissues are made up of living cells. The cells are arranged in tubes with walls separating them. Remember the xylem tissue, they are also in tubes. They also have got thick walls. These phloem tissues are cells which are alive, unlike the xylem tissues. Xylem tissues are actually dead cells. Phloem tissues transport food substance, glucose, from the leaves to the stems and root. So this is basically the function of the phloem. They actually transport glucose from the leaves to the stems and downwards towards the root. Now this is an example of a picture showing a cross section of the root. Now why have I prepared this picture for you? It is important that you know the position of the phloem and xylem in the root. Have a look at the picture. The outermost layer is called the epidermis. The inner layer is called the endodermis. Now the cortex and the endodermis are known as the ground tissues. Inside we have got vascular tissues. Vascular tissues are xylem and phloem. We have got a small sign inside there showing a plus-like thing. The plus-like thing is actually the structure xylem. Outside, the round-like thing around it is called phloem. This is the root. This is actually a simplified picture for you of the root. So remember that xylem is always inside, phloem is always outside. Enough about the root. What about the stem? Do they have the same structure like the root? Let's see the graphics. This is an example of the stem. Now the stem has got, of course, the outer layer epidermis. They have got phloem and xylem vessels. Remember, the xylem vessels are always inside. The phloem vessels are outside. Now in the stem we have got another extra structure called the cambium. The cambium is situated between the phloem and the xylem. Have a look at the picture. The next picture is also a simplified version for you of the stem to see where is the position of the xylem and the phloem in the stem. Have a look at it. This is just one unit, one vessel enlarged here, showing you the xylem and the phloem clearly. Next is a comparison picture for you to compare the root and the stem. Where is the xylem located in the root? Where is the xylem located in the stem? And what about the phloem? Have a look at the picture. Remember that no matter it is the cross section of the stem or the cross section of the root, the xylem is always in and the phloem would be out. In this picture here, the red color markings are the xylem, while the green ones are the phloem, of course. Let's move over to the next picture. This picture here is provided to show you where actually does the water flow and where actually do the food flow in the xylem and phloem system. Have a look at the arrow. The xylem points upwards. That means the water from the roots are flowing up to the leaves. The phloem points downwards, the arrow. So food or glucose is actually flowing down to the roots and other parts of the cells of the plant. This is an example of a leaf, a cross section actually. Now why have I prepared this picture for you? You need to also know where is the location of xylem and phloem in the leaf. You have got stomata and guard cells here. What are they? We would learn about them later. Now did you understand what is the main function of xylem and phloem in the leaves, in the root, in the stem, or basically in a plant? So shall we move over to the experiment of the day to see what actually is the main function of xylem? How can you prove the function of xylem? The goal of the experiment is to study transport of water from roots to leaves. The material needed are balsam plant, aqueous eosine solution. What about the apparatus needed for this experiment? We need microscope, slide, glass cover, conical flask and a knife. Now what is the procedure? Clean the roots of the balsam plant, immerse the balsam plant into the aqueous eosine solution in the conical flask. The balsam plant is left in the flask for a day. Now here I have actually drawn a picture for you to show you or to visualize better how is this experiment carried out. As you can see, this is the flask and we have got red colored water in them. This is the balsam plant. Now, why did we use red colored water? So that we can see the markings in the cross section as well as possible. So, the balsam plant is actually left for a day and then we take cross sections of firstly the leaf, the stem and the root. After a day, cut a thin layer of cross section of the root, leaf and stem of the balsam plant. Observe these cuttings under the microscope. Now, what would happen to these cuttings? Firstly, have a look at this diagram here. This is the cross section of the leaf. As you can see, we have got xylem and phloem. The xylem is actually colored red. Now what does it prove? We shall have a look at the next diagram and we shall discuss later what is the function of xylem. This is the cross section of the root and this is the cross section of the stem. The ones colored red here are the xylem. The ones colored lightly here, light orange, are the phloems. You can see from the cross section of the root and the stem that only the xylem is colored red. What is this red color? This red color is actually the red solution or the red aqueous eosine solution used. So what does this experiment actually prove? Xylem actually transports water from the roots up to firstly the leaf just now and stems. Also the root, the cross section of the root is colored red. So simple as that. Xylem's function is to transport water, of course. So did you understand the experiment, students? Remember the function of the xylem and the phloem. We shall move over to the next segment of the day. Do you know what is transpiration? Transpiration is defined as the loss of water in the form of water vapor. Now, it is important that plants lose water. Why is that so? The plants need to lose water to actually keep themselves cool and to prevent from accumulation of excess water in their body. Now, how do they lose this water? What process do they undergo to lose water in transpiration? The water vapor evaporates through the stomata of the plant from the surface of the leaf. So now you know that the process that happens in transpiration is evaporation. Now, through which part of the leaf do water disappear to the air? The stomata, of course. What are the stomatas? A stoma is a tiny pore between two bean-shaped cells called guard cells. Now later in the lesson, you can have a look at the stomata and the guard cells. Now these guard cells have got chloroplasts in them. The guard cells control the opening and closing of the stomata. So, it is not only important to have a hole or a stoma there, but it is important to control the opening of the stoma by the presence of guard cells. The stomata of plants are usually open during the day to allow the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide during photosynthesis and respiration. So, the stomata actually plays an important role in the process of photosynthesis and respiration. Remember, photosynthesis uses carbon dioxide while respiration uses the oxygen, just like us humans and animals. So, let's have a look at the function of the stoma and where is it positioned in the leaf. This is a picture or cross-section or drawn photo of a leaf. Now you can see that the topmost layer of the leaf is the cuticle. The cuticle is actually wax-like. They prevent losses of water. Under the cuticle we have got the upper epidermis. Now, the other few sections of the leaf is not so important for you to know, but you must know the position of the vascular bundle. The vascular bundle are, of course, the phloem and the xylem. Below the vascular bundle, we have got stomata, which is an opening in the leaf. And in between the stomatas, we have got guard cells. Let's see a simplified picture of these. You can see here the pores of the stomata, and the upper layer is the cuticle one. And you can see the vascular bundle, the topmost is the xylem and the lower one is the phloem. X for xylem, P for phloem. This is an example of an open stomata and a closed stomata. So as you can see, the guard cells are actually bean-shaped. The tiny little dot-like things on the guard cell are actually the chloroplast. The chloroplast contains chlorophyll, of course, green pigments for photosynthesis. What actually controls the opening of the guard cells? Well, we shall see the factors of transpiration in our next lesson. So, till then, I would like to tell you that if the guard cells are open a lot, then more water will be lost. If they are closed or slightly open, then less water will be lost through transpiration. As simple as that. This is a picture showing you the underside of the leaf. You can see stoma open, gases enter and leave. You can see the guard cells, and if the stoma are closed, water cannot leave. Do you know that only 10% of the water actually absorbed by the roots is used for photosynthesis? So what actually happens to the other 90% of the absorbed water by the plants? They are loosed by the process of transpiration. So now you know, students, that transpiration is actually a very important process. So, did you understand about transpiration? What do transpiration actually do? And what is xylem and what is phloem? So can you answer the next few questions that I have prepared for you? Let's move over to question 1. What is the function of phloem in a plant? A. To control transpiration. B. To carry out photosynthesis. C. To transport food, which is glucose, from the stems and roots. And D. Lastly, to transport water and mineral salts from the roots to the leaves. What controls transpiration? Guard cells, of course. So A is definitely the wrong answer. What about B? To carry out photosynthesis. Or is it C? What do you think? Let's see the correct answer. The correct answer is C, to transport food, glucose, from the stems and roots. D, to transport water and mineral, is the function of xylem. Let's see question 2. What are the stomata guarded by? Not long ago we learned about the stomata. So what are they actually guarded by? Well, from the question itself you should know the correct answer. Correct answer is A, guard cells. Now guard cells are actually kidney bean-shaped like. They have got chloroplasts in them. They control the opening of the stomata. Remember, stomata is controlled by guard cells. Let's see question 3. What is the definition of transpiration? Now transpiration, you have a key word there that they have got something related to water. What process takes place? Evaporation. So how do you actually define transpiration? Transpiration is defined as the loss of water in the form of water vapor. The water vapor evaporates through the stomata of a plant from the surface of the leaves. I have a question for you. The upside of the leaf or the lower side of the leaf, which side actually have got more stomatas? Well, in the next lesson, I will give you the answer to this. Let's move over to question 4. Which of the following is not true about the xylem? A. These are dead cells with neither nucleus nor cytoplasm. B. Form the woody tissues of plants and give support. C. Form long tubes with thick walls. D. Are made up of living cells. Now we know the xylem forms woody tissues with thick walls. Are they alive or are they actually dead? Let's see the correct answer. The correct answer is D. Are made up of living cells. Xylem are not made up of living cells. Xylems are actually dead tissues. Remember, they make up the rings in the tree. The rings actually resemble the age of the tree. Now we are done with the questions. Did you succeed in answering all of them correctly? So, we have come to the end of the lesson, but before I end, I would like to do a quick summary about the lesson today. Let's see the graphics. The transport system in plants is made up of two main vessels, which are xylem and phloem tissues. Xylem and phloem tissues form vascular bundles. So all you have to remember about the transport system in plant is only two words, xylem and phloem, and their functions obviously. Xylem is the vessel which transports water and mineral salts from the roots to the leaves. So xylem transports water and mineral salts. Remember, xylem, water, mineral salts. What about phloem? Phloem is a vessel which transports food, glucose, from the stems and the root. So when you remember phloem, remember glucose. Transpiration is defined as the loss of water in the form of water vapor. The water vapor evaporates through the stomata of a plant from the surface of the leaves. So remember that transpiration is a process where actually plants lose water. A stoma is a tiny pore between two bean-shaped cells called guard cells. The guard cells control the opening and closing of the stoma. So remember, no guard cells, no stoma, no transpiration, and no exchange of gases, and no water losses. So that's all for today, students. I really do hope you enjoyed the lesson. Have fun learning. Then, till I see you in the next lesson, take care and bye.